Greetings, and welcome to another episode of Gather All to Hear. I'm your host, Saffron Hurt, and with that being said, gather round. Reverend, do you have a minute? One of the candle girls came to talk to me, but I couldn't hear them. I was so focused on that letter that I ignored her, which should be hard since my office is small. So her voice rang clear in my ears. Since she didn't receive an answer, she came close into my peripheral. This time, I noticed. If you're too busy, I can tell them that won't be necessary. I started to motion for the chair, but she declined, saying that she was sent to fetch me for a last-minute meeting. All right, tell them I'll be another minute. Thank you, Priska. Going back to the letter enticed me even more. But why? Is it because of the handwriting? Or maybe it's the loaded language that makes you feel like everything he is saying is true. That boy always knew how to speak, despite his problem. I glanced at the clock and quickly gathered my things for the meeting. As I headed toward the meeting room, my mind became cloudy. I'm 58. I met him at 48. Then he left a day after my 51st birthday. Only 16. At the age of 58, I'm now just hearing from him. Do I blame him? No, because this town hasn't been very kind to him. Damn it, boy, why won't you speak? I am, sir. I meant properly. You stumble over your words so much they could be classified as clumsy. There in this classroom was bad enough. Now I upset my teacher. I thought to myself, would Mom be mad this time? After all, I am trying my best. Mama always loves it when I try my best. So, why is she so mad at me lately? Hey, pay attention. Yes, sir. Sorry. He held his hand to my face and saluted the library pass across the desk. I'll be in there after lunch. When I come back, I want you to read these sentences. Perfectly. I nodded and made my way to the library to quickly mask the tears of frustration. My school may be old, but the library feels new. Glossy bookcases, wide, sturdy tables. But the best feature was the 3 big windows that allowed the natural light to pool over the room. That's where I was sitting reciting the sentences when David slammed his hands on the table, wanting to make fun of me again. Yes, David, what do you need? He ignored me and snatched the book from my hands. Hey, give that back. Or what? You stuttered me to death? Ha! Please, David, I need that for a sharp pain accelerated around my head, and I fell to the ground. All the tears I had been fighting since this morning finally came out. Dinner will be ready in 5, waiter son. Go on and wash up. I sat up from my bed to give a quick nod, but I should have known better. Mama always had a strong intuition, especially when it came to me. The moment I faced her, she didn't even blink before saying, Who's been harassing you now? I looked away. Mama grabbed my shoulders. Boy, you know better than to ignore me? Or do I have to make a... It was David and his friends. But it's okay. They didn't hurt me this bad. She gave no response, so I continued. With how the teacher yelled at me, what David did after I was on the ground. Just like that, her demeanor changed from concerned to furious. Then she stomped down the hall. Following her, I said, Mama, what are you doing? She grabbed her purse, and I grabbed a fistful of her skirt. Please, Mom, it'll make it worse. Let go, waiter son. No, Mom, not until you calm. Not again. Lately, I've developed an uncontrollable stutter cycle whenever I'm in distress. Not only do my words slow, but I start to blink fast. Like at any moment, I'll open them, and it would have all been a dream. So when Mama sees this, she scoops me up and takes me to the kitchen. She grabbed an ice cube and started to slather it over my face. After I calmed down, she placed me in the chair and resumed cooking. Mama, the clinking of a spoon against a pot. Are you still mad at me? Stop all that questioning. She placed a bowl in front of me. It's your favorite, Malay soup with fresh bread. The weather is nice today. Hopefully it stays that way. Originally, I wanted to go walking near the river, enjoy my time for the first day of the holiday. But Mama decided to make me an errand boy. First, to give Miss Shakla some leftover soup. Then, to help Mr. Kwabe fix a fence. Man, that fence was hard to fix, I thought. I think it gave me a splinter, too. So I picked up the white paint. I should have known better, because I bumped into a man. His paper splattered all over the ground. I froze as I watched him struggle to pick them up. Boy, don't stare. Help your elder out. Oh, right. Sorry. After placing the last paper in his hands, I apologized again. He nodded and continued his way, but not without giving me a fair warning. Watch where you're going, or you might run into trouble. I continued walking, embarrassed by my mistake, yet intrigued. He looked like an important person. more important than me. Yet, why do I feel like we are the same? After dinner, I read my sentences. Show us your wings, African child. Prove to the world you can fly. You know you can fly. Still shaky, but better than back at the library. Flashes of what happened that day still rustled in my brain. Why do those boys have to be so mean, I thought? I can't be the only stutterer they've come upon. An hour passed, and I'm in my bed. Darkness surrounded me. It was swallowing me into the abyss while screaming, "You're a stuttering fool," over and over again. The next thing I knew, I was screaming for Mama. The love and dedication of this community made this idea a reality, and I, along with everyone involved in the church, are grateful. No, too informal. Maybe if I remove the... Sorry to disturb you, Reverend, Priska exclaimed, but you're needed at the podium in 10. Right. Thanks again. If I think too much, you'll just turn to mud. Forget it is perfect. Turns out that the community wasn't as stiff this year, and the banquet breakfast flew by. The hard part is just beginning. Come now, weighty son. I do not want to be late. For what I thought is just another opportunity to show the town your son is normal. The moment I was scheduled to appear in those special classes, those odds turned slim. This event was going to be nothing but stuffy, judgmental adults looking to point out the flaws of the children who attended. In secret, they wouldn't dare ruin their perfect image with sly comments. Weighty son! I'm coming, Mama. Tables upon tables of activities for children ages 3 to 10, then just 4 for the older kids. I wish I was at that table, because while there are 20 of them, there are over 40 in my age group. And of course, Mama left me to the wolves. What the matter with you, boy? One woman yelled. Can't you speak properly? Said a little girl. You never get anywhere speaking like that. Then, of course, just mean nonsense out of a group of older boys. All of this became too much, so, with no other option, I snuck out of the banquet hall and into an empty office. At first glance, I thought, who could design a room like this? It provided no width space, so the chair had to turn at an angle. If hasty, the door could slam against a small bookshelf behind it. But nothing took the cake more than the lack of natural light. This whole church was built with natural light in mind. So, said it lifted the spirit. Guess they dropped the ball when building this room. I turned to leave, but the door put a stop to that. For the majority of my life, I've had a stuttering problem. So bad that my dad would force me to recite poems day in and day out to improve my stutter. I hated those with passion because it would hit me if I stumbled. This cycle continued until I went to a church retreat at 15. I found a real community when I went. Those people encouraged me to do better for myself. That is what I thought looking to the eyes of the boy I bumped into the other day. Fate couldn't have brought up a bittersweet memory. Except I only knew he had a stuttering problem when he became conscious again. Take it easy, child. You took quite a hit. I've been conscious for 5 minutes and I already want to pass out again. I read in a book once that fate will come at the unfortunate of times. Well, the odds of me coming face to face with the same man I bumped into yesterday are slim. Then later on, I find out he's the clergyman for the church, which will explain all the papers in the robe. I'm sorry, sir. I just wanted to get away from the event, and I stumbled across this room, but Granted, his stuttering wasn't as bad as mine, but I could tell how much it haunted his spirit. Very apologetic, no confident stature. Heck, he couldn't even look me in the eyes. His eyes darted around so much that I was afraid that flies would start appearing. Okay, I forgive you. So how long have you had this problem? Problem? I don't know what you're speaking of. No need to be ashamed. Trust me, you're not the only person who has this problem. Take me, for instance. It may be hard to believe, but I was once in your shoes. Now I'm head of the town's church, responsible for anything that requires public speaking. I think I was around your age when the stuttering got worse. If he wasn't listening before, he sharpened his attention tenfold when he heard. How can you tell? And why is it getting worse? It takes one to know one. Now he's shocked. His eyes glossy with tears, but he quickly composed himself, calling my bluff. Son, I'm old enough to be your grandfather. The reason why the stuttering isn't there is because I grew out of it, and got help, of course. Help? He exclaimed. What kind of help? Are they still around? What was your experience like? I chuckled and brought him to his feet. I'll tell you what. Why don't you come over tomorrow after service, and I'll give you my life story. Immediately he was skeptical. Good parenting from what I can see. Yet that's debatable until I meet with the parents. Eventually he gave me a thumbs up, and I gave him a warm smile. Wonderful. I looked at the clock before opening the door. You should start heading back to the hall. The event will conclude soon. Oh, right. Thank you, sir. He started to leave before he paused to look at my face. My name is Wedison, and thank you for treating me with kindness. Sir, may I ask a question? Yes, Wedison. How did I get a stuttering problem in the first place? Say that last sentence again, and remember to feel every syllable coming out. How did I get a stutter in the first place? That's better. He gave me a thumbs up, and I smiled. I can't believe how far I've come. I went from a constant stutter in need of help to now being able to have partially clear conversations. Even the speech attack stopped. However, it wasn't easy. For the Reverend to help, he needed to stop the special classes. Said it did more harm than good, implying I was never the problem, which made the teacher red as a beetroot. Second, he needed my mother's full approval to take me out of the house. What's the outdoors going to do? My mother barked. The lessons are still going to be the lessons. I understand your concerns, Miss Masoni. But for your son to improve, he is going to need to put those skills to the test, not to mention having him step out of his comfort zone. He wasn't wrong about that. Looking back, Mom enabled me a lot. Anytime I had a problem, I would just wallow in my bed. We started in his office. I think it was after the holiday that he told me the next phases of his plan. Why so soon? Don't give me that, Wadison. I told you this was going to happen. I know, but why? Then we started to put things to the test around town. I even got to step into parts I never knew before due to fear. To answer your question, I'm not sure. Science tells us it's due to a neurological imbalance, while I think it's due to how you're raised in the outside environment. You were bullied heavily? Heavily, I said. Well, that's why. Something in your brain told you to stumble over your words. To the extremes, of course. He paused to hand me a stalk of roasted maize. Then he turned his attention to the river. Reverend always had a love for nature. My observations hinted that it was another factor for why his stuttering stopped. Nature probably calmed him in a way that it never did before, which makes sense because the weather changes constantly. One minute the wind blows, next it could be sunny, then rain pours. Then it hit me. Nature is forever changing, just like humans. So just because stuttering plagues my life now, it does not mean that it will forever. He didn't respond. Hello, I just figured it out. Turning to me, he let out a deep sigh, smiled again, stood up, and let out his hand. You're a fast learner. Come now, it's time to get you home. We're walking down a steep hill before coming to a full stop at a field. At this time, the sun had already dipped below the horizon, leaving a brilliant flash of orange and yellow across the tall grass. What is it? I said. Is the grass even to you? I guess so. Why do you ask? Because to me it looks the same, at least from where we're standing. Then let's go take a closer look. I went to go, but he pulled back. It's not safe to go through that grass. Once the sun sets, it'll be no different than a corn maze, only thicker. We continued walking. Another one of his sayings flew over my head, and for the longest time I didn't know what it meant. Again, another one of his sayings flew over my head, and for the longest time I didn't know what it meant. Dear Reverend, I'm doing great in college, learning all types of things from amazing people. And you're right, there are people who had a stutter just like me, or have a stutter. They too also face bullying. So I set up a group where we can all converse in a safe environment. I even taught them some of your lessons. Anyway, I'm sorry for the short letter, but it was the best I could do on short notice. I'll try to make plans to visit in the summer. Yours truly, Wedison. P.S. Look up this YouTube video for a surprise. I couldn't help but smile, maybe even laugh just a little too loud. Priska came in. What's so funny, Reverend? After wiping my tears away, I tucked the letter into my cabinet and stood up. Don't mind me, dear. I just got the chuckles from an old friend in a letter. Must be a good friend. You barely crack a smile, let alone laugh. After dinner, I made it a point to look up Witness in surprise. It was the first time I had watched a YouTube video unrelated to the church. In all my life, I never would have expected a higher honor than what I saw and what I heard, especially what he said at the end. And that's my story, guys. I know you may have additional questions or know someone who has a similar story. After all, this is what the Reverend meant. When he mentioned the tall grass looking the same, he was referring to the people I'll meet in my life. Some are more fortunate than others, some with warm hearts, some with cold ones. At the end of the day, they were just like me at the time, young people trying to carve out a future. And that is what I did for myself. If I could overcome the hurdles, so could you. That's it for this video. Fly high and stay safe. Wait out. Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode. And a special thanks to Waitis and Missoni for this story submission. Do you or someone you know have a story that needs to be told? Then please click the link in the description and we'll get started on making that a reality. Until next time, my dears.